What up, everybody? It's your boy, Surgical Guru. I'm back with another video. Today, we want to do a question and answers video, answer some of the questions that people had on TikTok, and hopefully that can help y'all out there. So without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so somebody asked me to speak about the responsibility of keeping track of instruments, supplies, and sutures. That is a very important responsibility of you as a surgical tech. I mean, it's your main priority, is to not send the patients home with any retained objects, to not cause any more harm, any sickness, illness, or even possible death. So your number one job is to make sure you stay on top of your counts. You count with your circulator before the case starts, and you make sure that you count at the end of the case. A seasoned nurse will make sure that you two count. Occasionally, a seasoned nurse might forget, so you gotta always, it's really your responsibility. It's you and your nurse's responsibility, but that's really your responsibility as the surgical tech to make sure that nothing gets left behind in the patient. As far as instruments, that's why we do the counts, to make sure that we don't leave anything. As far as supplies, we count the supplies that could possibly be left behind. But depending on the facility you work at, sometimes certain things are counted and other things aren't. It just really varies from facility to facility, depending on whether or not that thing has been left behind in somebody before. A lot of times, something or supply is added to the list of counts when something has happened, when somebody has had a retained object. Like, let's say some places we count pens, the caps of the pens, and some places we don't. Some places we count the stapler cartridges, other places we don't. Some places we even count the cleaner from the Clarify, and other places we don't. So it really depends when it comes to supplies. But as far as instruments, anything that could be retained, especially in cases where we're going into an empty cavity, we always count the instruments. When you're not going into a cavity, like for orthopedics, for instance, then we don't count all the instruments. You don't count any instruments. You just count supplies like softs and sharps, so sponges and Ratex, or what are they called? Peanuts. And then you also count your sharps. So you count sutures and blades and salt, things like that. So yeah, it's, to answer that question, it's the biggest responsibility, in my opinion, as a surgical tech. Not even in my opinion, just in general, that is our biggest responsibility. Sterility is number one, but number two, hardly number two, they're pretty much equal in my opinion, is making sure that we don't leave anything behind. So that's a very big responsibility. Somebody asked, how was school? Was it hard? I went to an accelerated program. It was a 13-month program. It was 10 months in the classroom and then a 3-month externship. It was definitely a challenging experience. It wasn't easy. I won't say it was easy. It was one of the most challenging schooling experiences I ever went through. The reason is because everything is crammed into that 10 months. You're learning so many different things and so many different concepts so quickly, and the turnaround between learning something and then taking a test, taking quizzes pretty much every single day, it was pretty intense, but it was doable. It's not impossible, and I believe if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I wasn't necessarily the best student in school, but this schooling and kind of having this friendly competition with my classmates, and then also having a teacher that was really passionate about the field and surgical technology, really inspired me to be the best student that I could be and pushed me to try to keep up. It was very fast paced, but it was worth it. It was worth it, and it was dope to be able to dedicate myself to something and then, you know, see it through to the end and be able to see the fruits of my labor and, you know, manifest everything that I wanted as far as being able to get a job and just continue in the field and grow in the field. And even till today, I mean, I've been in the field for 10 years now, and it's been an interesting journey. It's crazy to see how you can go from not knowing anything about a certain topic or field or, you know, occupation or whatever the case may be, and then you just put that time in, that dedication, you just invest the hours, and over time you can master anything, you know, and you can become proficient at anything and be able to teach it to other people. You know, the fact that it's gotten to this point, it's amazing to me. And it just goes to show me, like, I shouldn't quit here. You know, you can learn and master anything it is that you want to do in your life. So I encourage all of you feel me, to keep applying yourself, keep improving, never settle. Feel me? All right. Our next question is, how much experience do you feel is necessary to apply for a travel position? So when I started as a tech, the advice that I got from the senior techs was that you should work in the field at least 5 years before you take that leap into travel. Nowadays, because people want the money that comes from traveling, I've seen people get out of school maybe working for a year, honestly, and be ready to take that leap and start traveling. The reason that people say that you should take 5 years to study and learn all the specialties that you can is because you don't want to go to a facility as a brand new tech where you are expected to scrub all these different specialties, and then you're basically a fish out of water. You know, they throw you to the wolves, and it can be a horrible experience. When you're a new tech and you don't know how to do enough things, and you work at a facility where you're expected to do all these different things, it's not a fun time, you know. And in worst case scenarios, sometimes if you're not doing well at a facility, you could possibly be let go as a traveler. It's not like you're a staff person where they're gonna, you know, put that time in to try to help you learn. A lot of times as a traveler, you are expected at most facilities to know every single specialty. You're expected to be proficient at every single specialty. You know what I mean? They want to be able to bring a traveler in, not have to train them, get them acclimated after about a week, and have them, you know, start doing cases, have them taking call. And generally, it takes you about 5 years before you can learn all those things and feel that comfortable. Now, you can get lucky. In the situation that I've seen, the techs that I've seen that were travelers that had only been techs for about a year or year and a half, they gotten into a facility where we weren't expected to scrub every single specialty. For example, there was somebody that I knew, he only worked as a tech for about a year and a half, and he started traveling. The hospital that we worked at, he was only expected to do what his specialty was. What he primarily did at his first hospital was orthopedics, and that's all they asked him to do. Now, if you landed to a situation like that, let's say all you did was vascular at a hospital you were at, you decided to start traveling after a year and a half, and the hospital you went to only wanted you to do vascular, that's a blessing. You know what I mean? You got lucky, but it doesn't typically happen like that. Most of the places that I've been, I'm expected to do pretty much everything, you know, unless it is a specialty like orthopedics or hearts or, you know, something niche where they hired you specifically for that, you know. But for the most part, you want to be flexible. You want to be able to be the type of tech where you don't want to go to work and have any anxiety about being in a room or working with somebody. You know, there are people that are like that, where they're like, oh, I don't work with this type of person, or I don't do that type of specialty. And me personally, I don't want to be that type of person. I want to be the type of tech where I can be put into any room and I'll feel comfortable and I'll adapt. And even if I never worked with a doctor, I'm familiar with the instrumentation because I've done that type of operation or surgery before. So it's not like I'm going to go in there and be nervous and afraid. They're going to be able to sense the confidence off of me and know that they're working with somebody that at least knows, a general understanding of that specialty, so that you're not clashing. A lot of times when they feel like, oh, this person doesn't know any of these instruments, or they have to teach you or tell you the names of everything, then sometimes they can get frustrated, and then it ends up not being a good experience for anybody. So that's my answer in a nutshell. I feel like 5 years is perfect for somebody to have experience before deciding to take that venture and start traveling as a surgical tech. The next question is, what are the best shoes for a surgical tech in the OR? So you want to get some sneakers that are comfortable. Me personally, I liked wearing Crocs at first, and I just switched over to OOPHOS. I believe it's spelled OOPHOS. I think they're super comfortable. They work for me. After a long day, they don't hurt too bad. If you're flat-footed, I would suggest Crocs, and if without the holes, just in case you have a bloody case, and if you have an arch in your foot, I would suggest OOPHOS because they are kind of arched. There's another pair of sneakers that everyone wears. I can't think of them right now, but I'll get back to that. I got you. Those are the sneakers that I would wear, or the shoes that I would wear in the OR. Anything that's comfortable, you know what I mean? Because you're going to be on your feet for all day long, and by the end of the day, you don't want your feet to be sore and hurt. And you got to spend money on a massage bill, you know what I mean? Like, you want to wear something that's going to work. Right, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the next question is, do surgical techs have specialties? So it really depends on the hospital. The first hospital I ever worked at was a level 1 trauma center in the city, and we did have specialties. There was like 40 ORs. There was a bunch of ORs at that place, a bunch of doctors, a bunch of techs, a bunch of nurses. So we had the staff to be able to basically create teams, and there was a ortho team, there was a vascular team, a hearts team, there was a general team, a GYN team, urology team. And the cool thing about that was the doctors got to work with their teams, and there was some continuity and some consistency with the teams, and everybody, work together every day. So I feel like that creates it just makes the cases go by a lot smoother, versus having to train somebody all the time. So that's at some hospitals. At other hospitals that are a lot smaller, there are not teams. There's only a few people there, and people work different days. And I've worked at places like that, more like community hospitals, where everybody has to know every specialty, and everybody has to be able to work with every doctor, because you need those interchangeable parts. So my answer would be that it depends on the hospital that you're working at, whether it's a level 1 or level 2, level 3, depending on how big it is, and the type of cases you do and what it requires, really. So the last question that somebody had for me a few weeks ago is, what do you do for housing? As a traveling surgical tech, since the beginning of my traveling career, I've honestly gotten pretty lucky. My first assignment was on an island that was very expensive as far as housing goes. So they paid for housing, and they had homes that were set up old doctor homes they had that were set up for travelers, and we could stay there, share the housing with other people. Is that necessarily ideal? I wouldn't say so for everybody. Having to live with people, you don't know the type of people that you're going to live with, whether you're going to be comfortable with them and their habits. I mean, you're a traveler, so it's only going to be for 3 months. However, you really got to keep in mind whether or not you want to house with somebody. I personally have had, one negative experience when I was living with somebody, and this person, threatened me. I'm not going to tell the whole story today, but it wasn't a good experience. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everyone. I was young. I was trying to get it. I was trying to get this money right. So I was excited to have housing paid for. I was like, yes, this is great. On top of that, I'm going to be on an island. Like, if that situation is something that you can relate to, then maybe that would work for you. But I don't think that would work for everybody. Burbers Finders is an app that a lot of people use. They list a lot of housing, or people list a lot of places on there for travel nurses, travel techs. So you can find something on there. It is a little pricey. I think my best advice as far as finding housing, a lot of times I wait until I get to the hospital. So, my last assignment, I was renting this room that was about 20 minutes from the hospital that I found on roomies.com. Actually, that was different. Everybody there spoke Spanish. I was the only English-speaking person there. We had to communicate with the translator. It worked out for the time being. It was about 2 months that I was there, and then eventually I was speaking to an x-ray tech at the hospital that I was working at, and he was actually interested in becoming a traveler. So he went to down south, and he was telling me he had a house that he was looking to rent, and he wanted to put it on Burbers Finders, and I was like, ding, 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 like, actually, how about me, bro? I need housing. I would love to stay there, and everything ended up working out. We didn't have to go through Burbers Finders, we kind of took care of business ourselves. So, a lot of times when you start at a new facility, if you can create a relationship with someone and just kind of put the word out there and let people know, look, this is what I'm looking for, a lot of times people will be willing to help you. So, yeah. So those are just a few questions that y'all have had from me on YouTube and TikTok. I hope that this can assist anybody who is interested in a career in surgical technology. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Let me know. I will definitely keep this series going of just answering y'all questions. It's your boy, Surgical Guru. Make sure y'all comment, like, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos.